So this is my argument pertaining to the fact that a God must exist. So I will proceed this with a couple of measures that we are going to follow throughout this argument. Our first measure is going to be that we are going to keep consistent logic throughout each argument or comparison, and we're going to maintain that the logic follows through until we can find a logical conclusion based on the logic that the pure logic that we will go by. In this conversation or discussion, I will be comparing the Big Bang, which is presented as a finite system, versus God or Gnostic religion and theories. So basically what we have here is we have the Big Bang, which science dictates is finite, versus God, which basically is heavily implied in all cultures to be a infinite system, right? And so science says, well, the infinite system can't really be the possibility, because mathematically, and in the infinite system, we can't exist. I mean, where was the beginning? So then how do we exist? And we'll touch up on that in a second. But the Big Bang says, okay, it's finite. From the singularity, we have a defined start value for the beginning of our reality, right? That expanded in all directions, and with time going in one direction, from how we would look at it right now, from past to future, right? With us being somewhere in between. So that's what they say. Defined, finite. However, if you look at the implications of the Big Bang, and something I feel like a lot of scientists kind of ignore in the process of explaining the logic of it. And that's not to say that our mathematical measurement or our mathematical observation of it is flawed in any way, but the logic behind the conclusions derived from those observations is flawed, because in every sense it seems to be that once you get to the explanation of this singularity that exploded into our universe, the pure logic stops there. And I'll explain what I mean. If you think about the Big Bang and its implications, it's basically implying that from absolutely nothing, from absolute non-existence, comes a singularity of epic proportions in mass that exploded into the Big Bang, into our universe, right? So they're saying and heavily implying that from a plane of non-existence, we got existence through the Big Bang. Something came from nothing. That logic does not hold up. Because as they said about the God theory, well, who created God and who created that God, and you see it's infinite, so then a God can't exist, and yada yada yada. Well, it's the same exact thing with the Big Bang, isn't it? Logically, and I mean logically, not what we have been able to observe, because I will, touch up on the fact in a second that just because we can't observe it doesn't mean that it isn't a fact of the matter. But with the Big Bang, logically, wouldn't it seem to be that there would have had to have been some sort of spatial existence predating the beginning, and then something predating that, and so on and so forth? So would that not lead us to the conclusion then that this finitism that the Big Bang presents is actually an infinite system? It has to be, logically. The Big Bang had to come from something. It could not have logically came from nothing. So we see that both of these systems are infinite systems, and by logic they are exactly what they seem. They are infinite in the micro and the macrocosm. And then both of these systems then have infinite time. So if these two systems are the exact same thing, we may as well be able to say they are the exact same thing. They are the same thing. And what I believe is that science is the mathematical observation or attempt to observe God. Well, and it will never happen, but the attempt nonetheless to observe God. And I don't mean God in any specific religious sense. So infinite systems therefore have infinite time. So logically, let's follow this implication then. Infinite time implicates there's no exact definition for a start value, an exact definition of direction towards an exact end value. This technically means this reality we perceive doesn't exist, because there was never a point in time for this reality to begin existing naturally, unless a God willed it to exist at some point in time on this infinite timeline. And so the conclusion that we come to here is that if the Big Bang is by logic an infinite system and would have to be, and if God is an infinite system as stated, and logically would have to be if you think about the God before God thing, or you can think about that, it doesn't matter, not pertinent to this argument. So if you think about the Big Bang and Gnostic theories, and consider the fact that both of them are infinite systems, and consider the fact that they are one and the same system, and consider the fact that science is nothing other than our attempt to observe said source or God. And in some scales, we do it in a really good fashion. But what I'm saying is what if the Big Bang, what if that's as far as we will ever see? Probably it is. Because the Big Bang is the mark of when said God willed this reality. Had to have been. Because we can't see anything before that. It's because we will never have the ability to see anything before that. Even though there was a before that. To see that is to see God. So we come to the syllogism that the only thing that can give us the power to perceive a reality that is not there would be a God. And again, I'm not arguing this under any specific religion, right? We'll look at this with a sort of omniscient behavior, where we are going to basically assume that all religions and their primary God are assumed to be the same thing, all-knowing, creator of all, right? So we see by logic, by pure logic, what science implicates, and the story that they stick with is also an infinite system. no matter how they want to portray it to you. Because here's the thing, they're portraying it to you like, oh, it's because we can't see anything. No, it's because you will never be able to see anything much farther than what you're seeing now. And that's just the fact of the matter. Both systems are infinite. Our reality doesn't exist, but our perception to a reality does. Think about that one.